On the weather, Dateline Mangaung. This is the last day, of course, of conference here in Mangaung, speaking to leaders from the different provinces in the country. A little bit earlier on, we're speaking to Ace Magashule of the Free State, the host province. Let's go to Gauteng now. We welcome the Premier of the province there, Nomvula, but also just talking about what has happened. Premier, good morning to you. Welcome.
Morning, Vu, and morning to the...
How are you feeling now?
I'm quite optimistic. I'm looking forward to the declaration. We've dealt with some of the reports from commissions, and I'm quite sure that this conference will be a watershed conference that takes us into the second century of the African National Congress.
Okay, we've talked a lot about leadership. Let's talk a little bit more about the policies. What are the key things that are emerging and that are going to guide South Africa and where we're going as a country in the next 5 years?
Amongst other things that are quite important in guiding South Africa for the next 5 years are issues around fighting unemployment, inequality and joblessness, looking at how we build macroeconomic enterprises, how we make sure that there's access to finances, how we mainstream the needs and aspirations of young people as well as women, and most importantly, how we utilize the state in terms of the rollout of massive infrastructure for job creation, for growing the economy, but also for improving the quality of life of our ordinary people.
Let's start with the first one. So how do you deal now? Because we've been talking about pushing back the frontiers of poverty for such a long time. How are we going to do it differently with this generation of leadership?
The implementation of the National Development Plan is one of the most important drivers, making sure that the ANC develops capacity to monitor the implementation of our own mandate in government is one of the things that has come out quite strongly under organizational renewal, that those that are deployed to go and realize the aspirations of the ANC members on behalf of the people of South Africa must be held accountable on periodic level. But secondly, we must make sure that we've got credible systems in government that ensure that there's actual delivery. Thirdly, one of the things that is also quite good for my province is the acceptance that there's a need in the country for an urban development strategy. We've got a rural development strategy, but if you really want to look after this golden egg, like Gauteng, you definitely need to make sure that you've got an urban development strategy that then looks at migration patterns, that looks at growing a knowledge-based economy, that makes sure that you diversify in terms of beneficiation, and lastly, that does not only look at the growth of the economy, but also creates sustainable jobs. So the numbers in terms of the growth of the population in Gauteng comes as an opportunity, but it also gives us the space to address what is happening in the rural areas, because as we deal with the influx into the urban areas, the ANC has also acknowledged that people move from rural areas because of assumptions that there are greener pastures in urban areas. Whilst urbanization is an international phenomenon, we must also invest, and I'm sure we have seen how Waterberg in Limpopo has started to pay dividends, the Richards Bay, the Kucha development. But what is important with Gauteng is the development of the Aerotropolis, the expansion of the Gazeni depot, the rollout of additional freeways, new roads in the province.
This is going to be absorbing people in terms of those jobs and addressing this unemployment thing.
Creating jobs and making sure that you create infrastructure for economic activities. And those are the things that have been put even in the commissions that are dealing with economic transformation. Those are the issues that have been raised in terms of governance to say, let's have seamless development.
But Premier, look at what has happened with the building of infrastructure. Look at 2010, stadiums, lots of people employed. After that, built, done, refed it, and then people are unemployed again.
Our interventions here, we've said, we've always been happy on building on the legacy of the World Cup. And yes, there are pockets of that we have already done. And in Gauteng, we also have one major project that we're building on, the Gautrain, the success of the story of Gautrain, and therefore the eThekwini-Johannesburg rail corridor comes quite handy. Having learned from the Gautrain development, we must make sure, and conference has actually called that, you need those massive infrastructure development projects that do not only yield short-term jobs during construction, but also that create new skills and most importantly, create infrastructure for a viable economy.
Now, you're talking about making funding available for small emerging businesses. How are you going to do it differently? There's all these agencies that are there, but people continue to complain.
One of the things that we have done was to actually have a fragmented approach. We are already looking at the creation of a one-stop shopping center, so that then you can then different agencies and different services under one roof. And for us in Gauteng, this has also come quite handy, because we are already looking at a one-stop shop kind of investment outlet that is going to be based in Sandton. It's driven by our Department of Economic Development together with SARS as well as the national government, so that then an investor walks into one site and the investor gets the answer. It works with an SMME. It works with women in cooperatives. We've also said it's not about running workshops for them. It's about looking after them from cradle to grave, and that also includes funding, but also helping them on how to manage their funds.
So what future then for Gauteng Enterprise Propeller and those kinds of agencies?
That's exactly what we have. The thing that I'm raising, that some of the resolutions that are coming out here are strengthening already what is on the ground, like the Gauteng Economic Propeller, the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, where we have integrated many agencies, and that is exactly what the ANC is coming out with. And what is important about ANC conferences is that whatever is decided in this conference must find expression in what you are doing in government. And I'm quite comfortable that the apple has not fallen far from the tree in Gauteng.
Let's talk about Gauteng's two centers of power, where the chairperson is different to the premier. How is that going to be dealt with now that the elections has happened? Is there a unity plan? Is there a unity idea? Conversations? Where are we going?
I've been in this office from the time when Comrade Paul was the chairperson of the ANC, and I'm still the premier. What I forever respect is exactly that we serve at the behest of the ANC. And I'm no half ANC, and we work very well. You have to have systems, you have to have structures of relating, because it's not about personal relationships and choices. It's about all of us doing our work in the best interest of the ANC. So moving forward, he had his choice. He was calling for change. Everybody knew him calling for change, and he knew from the onset that I was calling for continuity and renewal of the African National Congress. I wished him well, and my preference actually came out. Now that the conference is over, we must all look at what needs to be done. And I'm quite hopeful Gauteng will rise to the occasion.
What does that mean?
We will actually deal with those that assume that Gauteng will go to the opposition. It will never actually happen. We can go back with pride and confidence to our communities and say we have made a difference. We can go and account on the 18 years of being in government, but even this current 4 years of being in government, we can account on how we have improved the lives of our people and where a lot still needs to happen. And it is up to the ANC members, and that's what conference has said. ANC members must own up on the development and the work that government is doing, but they must also be capacitated by government, those who are deployed, providing them information, and those of us who are councillors, who are ward councillors, who are premiers, who are MPs and MPLs, must also remain in touch with our people and not go during election period. We've done it in Gauteng. It's part of our day-to-day program.
It seems to be up in the air, the slates idea. Some are saying there's no slates. Others are saying there are slates. What's your perspective? Are there slates, and do they work for the ANC in the current climate?
We don't need slates, but what we need to accept is that contestation will forever be there. And where there is contestation, we don't have to be very ill-disciplined. We don't have to be vulgar. We do not have to undermine individuals' choices and rights, and there must not be any victimization. And I think what is important is for us then to make sure that there are permutations from all sides. And permutations does not mean looking at the list of those that are having something on the right and those that are having a list from the left. You need to actually look at the pool that the ANC has and the strength and capabilities that individuals have, and that would actually, my view is that would actually kill what is perceived to be a slate. What is dangerous is factions that are based on personal interests and not contestation of views. We must condemn that.
Are the views contested, or is it more personalities? Because a lot of the time, even in the build-up to this, it seems the focus has been on personalities, the who, and not the quality of the argument.
For the duration of this conference, there was contestation on views and hence commissions. And I think that's what my wish is. I so wish many people can understand how the ANC functions. Contestation of views takes place within the structures of the ANC. Going to commissions, you don't have everybody agreeing. That's why commissions will go up until early hours of the morning. We are now at plenary. Delegates who were not in one commission are now engaging a report that comes from another commission. And that's contestation of views. But then we find consensus out of those deliberations. And thereafter, a view then emerges as a view of the African National Congress, and that has to be embraced.
One of the analysts who was here with us was saying within the ANC, there is not an issue around developing policies and that, but it's about a political will to implement and make things work and happen.
It's about the political will and the right warm bodies. I think time has come for the ANC to not just look at the deployment on the basis of people being in the leadership of the African National Congress, but it must also be on what you can be able to deliver within that collective. And once you are in the collective, what is important is how that collective works in unison. We need one voice. We need many voices but one message. The other important thing is to ensure that once we work together, we must have a plan for implementation. The good thing about the organizational renewal report is that it's calling for a decade-long program of action of organizational renewal, and all the plans that we're working on are plans that are looking at how things must be done. And this conference was mostly on that, because policy, we have actually dealt with it at the National Policy Conference. So out of this conference, we are going to get an action plan. And I hope that the more than 1 million members of the ANC will be ambassadors of that plan.
All right, thank you very much. Let's leave it at that, talking about what's happening and the views of the province of Gauteng. You may have some thoughts. Why don't you tweet us? We are at Mbuli Vuyo, at Leanne Manners. Text 33726. As we see more and more delegates going away. Are you going home, comrade? You're going home, comrade. You're going home. Is there room there at plenary for the bags? We're going to take a break. We continue after this. Stay with us. Welcome back as you watch Morning Live on SABC2. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. The sun is coming out here in Mangaung. Very shortly, one is going to have to take off their jackets. It's very sharp. Joining us now is the chairperson of the MKVA, Kebi Malpadzwe. Kebi, good morning to you. Welcome.
Morning for you and the viewers.
Yeah. Are you pleased with the developments at conference here?
Very much pleased with you. Because what we have been saying, that the type of leadership that we want to emerge from here in Mangaung is a type of leadership that must unite the ANC beyond Mangaung, and that has happened. So it's now that upon us as branches, as delegates, to make sure that we emerge from here in Mangaung united and forget about our preferences when we came here to the conference before.
So how will you unite? How will the branches then unite? What's going to be done? Is there a plan, a game plan for that?
There is a resolution on making sure that we enhance political education. And as MKMVA, we've got a resource of political commissars, which the NGC in 2010 resolved that commissars of Mkhonto Wesizwe must be used in the political education within the structures of the African National Congress. Therefore, we think our role as MKMVA is to ensure that we enhance practically doing political education.
What does political education mean? What does it entail?
The political education mainly means of understanding where the ANC comes from, what happened before colonization and also after their freedom, because most of the born frees now do not understand the liberation struggle, and it's our duty, because they are the majority now joining the African National Congress, to explain to them where do we come from and where we are going to.
Are they the ones causing problems on the basis of that misunderstanding of the political history of the ANC and the political history of the country?
Mainly they are not causing problems, but it's their leadership that is using this born frees who do not understand where we come from. But it's because of their resources, because every leader who gets elected, especially in the youth leagues, these are the people who have been on hell-bent in making sure that being in the leadership of the ANC, it's a ticket to being a businessman or to use the state resources, which we are saying, first and foremost, when you join the ANC, you join it to serve the people of South Africa, not for your own interest.
But it would seem that leaders such as Julius and Floyd have been disciplined. They are out of the ANC now. Is there still a discipline problem within the Youth League or within the ANC broadly?
You know, yesterday in plenary there was so much robust discussion, even the proposal that there must be a disbandment of the ANC Youth League. But we said, not because of an individual, therefore you want to disband.
Was that the proposal?
There was a proposal that in plenary that the Youth League must be disbanded.
Why? What was the motivation?
The motivation was because of the behavior and the attitude of the African National Congress Youth League towards the conference, defying the leadership of the ANC. So the delegates wanted to show the Youth League that it is not a Youth League outside the ANC structures. It is an ANC Youth League of the African National Congress.
So is there still a sense that the Youth League itself as a body is defiant of the ANC? It's no longer just particular individuals perhaps who may not have conducted themselves in a way that was acceptable to the current leadership of the ANC?
There were individuals within the ANC Youth League who were in the majority, who were really behaving in an ill-disciplined manner. And the conference here resolved that the incoming NEC must take serious attention in making sure that it assists the African National Congress Youth League in establishing the proper structures of the ANC Youth League.
Yeah. Okay, so what's going to happen now in that regard? Is there going to be new elections in the ANC Youth League, a new process to unfold?
Remember, I think the ANC Youth League, they are also due for their conference. Yeah. So it is the incoming NEC, it is this duty to make sure that it assists, babysits the ANC Youth League in re-establishing their provincial structures, their regional structures, and their branch structures, so that when they go to their national conference, they go to the national conference of the ANC Youth League.
So does the rot sink down to the structures at the most bottom level of the ANC Youth League?
The way things have been happening in the ANC Youth League, they were so bad that some of the branches, they were launched outside the structures of the ANC Youth League themselves, leaving genuine structures of the ANC Youth League. So the incoming NEC, it's its duty to assist the ANC Youth League that it establishes the proper branches of the ANC Youth League, which are the ANC Youth League of the ANC.
Okay. Kebi Mapatso, thank you very much. Kebi is with the MKVA joining us this morning, talking to us about discipline within the ANC. But so if you let me do this, I will appreciate it very much. I'm going to take off my jacket, and in the meantime also invite the chairperson of the ANC in the Northwest, Supra Mahumapelu, to come and join us and pass on my jacket there. Supra, good morning to you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much and good morning.
Yeah, thank you, man. Are you happy with the way conferences unfolded?
Oh, very, very happy. You'll remember that some of the analysts We're saying that this conference will not go well. There's going to be blood on the floor. There'll be commotion. There'll be chaos and so on. And so far, conference has gone very, very well. And we are happy about the outcome. The production that has gone in the commissions went very, very well.
Are you worried about a looming court case about the delegates and the finalization of the Provincial Executive Council in the Northwest?
No, not worried at all. Because the court has finalized this matter, the Mafikeng High Court. And we are urging those comrades who went to court to come to the organization so that we can sit down and talk. As far as we are concerned, the matter is finalized by the court, and it's just up to us to sit down, discuss, and see how we can make sure that we converge and move forward as the organization.
And the secretary in the province is still suspended?
The secretary is on suspension. We can't get into the details of the matter now because it's going to be a DC issue. But we are forging ahead. He understands the political importance of such an action himself also.
He's going to be disciplined?
Oh, of course, he's going to be taken through the disciplinary process of the ANC. And as I say, I can't get into them because it may compromise the process itself.
But the charges are clear. They've been finalized and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, he has received his letter. It outlines some of the issues.
Can you share those with us?
No, I can't, because I'll be jeopardizing and compromising the DC process if I do that.
When does it begin, the disciplinary process?
Well, it's up to the DC. I'm not in the DC. It's not my responsibility. So as far as they've done their job, I'm sure they will do the necessary communication.
So just talk about what happened in the Northwest. Why are some so unhappy as to go to court with regards to the processes there?
One of the biggest weaknesses, I think, we have not intensified sufficiently the political education program. And I think in the next coming years, we have agreed in the PC is to make sure that we intensify that program. We make it compulsory for the PEC, the RECs, the BECs, the MPs, the MPLs, all the councillors to go through the OR Tambo Political School, so that the level of understanding can be the same. We must understand that we have to resolve, no matter the difficulty, issues of the ANC have to be dealt with within the ANC.
So what would the political education entail then?
We have a curriculum committee. We have a curriculum that we have developed. We are going to commence the process by discussing the Freedom Charter, the strategy and tactics of the ANC, the history of the African National Congress. The important chapter in the curriculum there, it is matters of governance, because that is where some of the tensions come from.
The people who are going to go through this political education, are they unfamiliar with the history of the ANC? Are they not aware of that kind of history, the journey and those kinds of elements?
Learning is a road that is under permanent construction in politics. So you can never reach a stage where you say you are no longer going to learn, you can no longer be taken through a political school. That's why we are also going to have refresher courses as part of the curriculum going forward. We need also to teach our members on how they must handle divergence of opinions in as far as a preference of leadership is concerned. That it doesn't have to be emotional, we don't have to fight in meetings, because the communities are looking at the ANC. And if we don't improve the manner in which we do our things, people will no longer have the confidence in the ANC. So we need to work very hard on that particular matter.
2 centers of power in the Northwest, chairperson, not the premier. Is that something you're worried about? Is that something that is going to change?
There's only 1 center of power. This matter was resolved in Polokwane. The center of power is the African National Congress. What happens is for us to master the art of making sure that the relationship between those of us who are in the leadership of the elected structures and those who are in government is good. That is what we need. There's no 2 centers of power to talk about.
So you're not going to be the premier anytime soon?
No, it can't happen. We have a premier in place. And as far as we are concerned, the premier is going to be there until 2014. So there's no need for us to panic about anything. We must focus on service delivery. That's the main issue. We shouldn't be focusing on who is in which position. It's not important, because you can change people in positions, but the challenges will still be there. So for us, it's important to sit down and say, what is it that is still urgent that we need to implement to improve the lives of our people?
Okay. Today, being the last day of conference, what can we expect? What are your expectations?
Well, today we are going to finalize the commission's discussions in plenary. we are all looking forward to the direction that the president is going to outline, because he will be closing conference today. And we are very happy that all the delegates, the entire nation, is looking upon the president to say to us, going forward, going into the 101 years of the existence of the ANC, going into the decade of a cadre. These are the basic things that we are going to make sure that both the ANC and the community, we narrow the gap, we work together, we build a better country.
All right, thank you very much. Supra Mahumapelo is chairperson of the ANC in the Northwest Province, joining us this morning. ANC lives, ANC leads, necessary political healing and reconciliation of ANC in the Northwest. Thank you very much for giving us the program as well this morning. You're watching Morning Live, continuing our broadcast here, and if you'd like to send us messages on Twitter, you're most welcome to do that. We are at Mbuli Vuyo. Of course, Leanne in Johannesburg is at Leanne Manners. I just pulled out my own device here just to look at what people are saying on Twitter as we settle down with Professor Susan Boysen and Lisiba Tefu, who are going to give us just a bit of political analysis from our conversations. Orders, a lot to lose. They mustn't leave the ANC. That's the Morning Live Tech Team, Levuyo. Happy festive season. Oh, Levuyo. Ike Munameti tweeting at Mbulivuyo. There's quite a lot of them. We'll try and get through some of them through the rest of our broadcast this morning. So, your thoughts from the conversations that you were listening to just now, Lisiba?
No, it's a pity we couldn't just follow all that was being said. But the opening line sounded like people thought there would be too much blood flowing. And I thought, what could be the reason for that? And if indeed they do pause sometimes and interrogate. Prior to him, the Premier of Free State was here, Mr. Ismakhashule, who conceded that he was nearly poisoned, which tell us, especially analysts and those who are objective outsiders looking at what is happening within the party, that all is not well in the village.
Yeah. Susan, what are your thoughts from the conversations you've been listening?
Yes, especially your conversations with the last two senior politicians, and especially in the contested provinces, the Free State and the Northwest, two heavily contested provinces. What I pick up also talking from two delegates is that people come with good ideas after they have been elected. It's like the slate argument as well. Product of the good slate, and now we say slates are wrong. Yeah, the people are products of heavy campaigns and say we mustn't be campaigning like that. And Northwest, we do reconciliation. We've got a document like the one you received that says we are reconciling, we are engaging, we are talking. And the other side is saying, fine, now you want to talk after you have outmaneuvered. They concede being outmaneuvered in various, like we say in ANC, robust campaigns, and now you come and talk. So I am just afraid for the ANC that these initiatives are not having enough gravitas, traction in the minds of the opposing factions in the provinces.
Agree, Lisiba?
I do. I certainly do. You know, all I'm calling for is that let there be programs of action, which thing was raised even in after 2007, that would certainly ensure that people begin to recognize that they are members of one big family, and contestation should not translate into enmity, and the vanquished should quickly be brought on board. But if you let them to linger out there and you attempt to purge, rest you assured they will go back into the trenches and they will regroup and then ensure that you don't perform, you don't deliver, and act effectively as an opposition party within a ruling party.
We'll talk about political education and the emphasis on political education. Everybody we've talked to has said political education, political education. There's even a curriculum committee and so on. Let's pick up on something that was said by President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma. He was talking here, addressing himself to the delegates. Let's take a look.
Some branches contain members who belong to other members. Other alien tendencies to be eliminated from the movement as part of renewal is a negative lobbying for positions which includes smear campaigns in the media as well as gossip and rumor mongering about one another. Also common are the disrespectful public spats, as well as hurling insults at other comrades or members of the public, thereby bringing the ANC into disrepute. More seriously, we have experienced the shocking occurrences where armed comrades disrupt ANC meetings. This then raises the question, what exactly could be so much at stake that people would go so far to get their own way in the organization?
All right, so that's President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma addressing the delegates there. So, political education, how important is it? Because by the look of things, from what is being said, it's going to be, the ANC is going to be very strong on political education and also on the issue of discipline. Lisiba?
A very good idea. If that can assist people to understand and to appreciate what the organization stands for, I'm all for it. But what I don't hear people acknowledge is that the drive for more members, as Zwelinzima Vavi said, made it vulnerable to wrong people also to come on board. Are they going to use very strict criteria to ensure that whoever comes
You know, I'm wondering about these other people, and that's why I was asking Supra about just the delegates and the people who are within the ANC. Don't they know the history of the ANC? I mean, do you need effectively a school to educate people about the history of the ANC and the history of South Africa?
Political education is not going to turn back the clock of change culture, change historical conditions. ANC really depends on bringing history back into the present. They really hope to be doing that in the centenary year. And he said we had this very robust campaign. And so many people are saying, why don't the political leaders themselves first go to political school rather than trying to put us to political school? They are leading by a certain kind of example, and people are following that. So there needs to be much more credibility, leadership buy-in, leading both by example and by showing how that history matters in current life. And that is not coming through very strongly in a top-down message so far.
So, Mangaung is 400 k's from Joburg. It's about 400 k's from East London, the Eastern Cape. If you go further to Limpopo, that's about another 300 k's or 700 k's there. So the delegates have got a long way to travel from here. As they leave, what kind of ANC are they leaving with? Are they leaving with the same kind of ANC that they left with from Polokwane? Are they leaving with a stronger ANC? Are they leaving with a weaker ANC? Lisiba, what's your sense?
There are two ANCs here. One is the one that they...
No, it's united.
No, there are two ANC. It's the one they come up with, and there is one in potency, the one that has the potential to be united, to grow and develop. All it needs are men and women of integrity to help at least heal the wounds and bring the parties together and give a rebirth, a renewal.
Now you've got the integrity committee, so that's well underway.
Well, you have the integrity committee, but it would need men and women of integrity to preside over it. Equally, it would need men and women of integrity to mediate the curriculum, so said.
Okay, Susan, what kind of ANC are the delegates leaving with from here?
I think generally many of the delegates are very confused as to what they're taking from this conference. It is indeed the dominant ANC that was very well represented here. Most of the delegates were virtually hand-selected to come to this conference and endorse a certain candidacy. But the candidates leave...
No, but this is the democracy of the ANC. Susan, you've been here for a few days.
Yes, I apparently have not been listening very well to all the official voices.
Okay, so you're saying it's not a stronger ANC?
It is not a stronger ANC.
You agree with that, Lisiba?
Undoubtedly, because it is more fractured. Remember Mukulwa, the president, Ndate Mtlanthe. Behind him there are a number of souls, hurt, wounded. How are you going to bring them on board?
But I mean, reflect back to Polokwane. After Polokwane, there was a breakaway, there was the Congress of the People and so on. Now, in the presentation, organizational report by the Secretary General, 1.2 million members of the ANC, paid up people, KZN, 900 branches or 900 voting delegates here. So this is an ANC that seems if you look at the numbers, this is an ANC that seems to be climbing and climbing.
But the numbers bring an incredible vulnerability too, because immediately you have to look at political education to make sure they know what kind of party they are subscribing to. It's a general party political thing. Democratic alliances have the same problem. Here it is a massive problem, and they're even talking about 2.5 million members in a few years from now. And now they're talking about putting all of their 1.2 million members through political education. That is an immense task.
Are those numbers audited?
Well, for now, yes, they are audited.
The 1.2 million.
Yeah,
audited internally, or is there an external?
They are audited internally, hence the controversies around them. That's one. But one of the most interesting things about this growth, Vuyo, why is it that it was phenomenal only in one province, namely KwaZulu-Natal? It's of interest. Those who are doing research, maybe they should revisit that and come and tell us why.
Okay.
Other provinces have had increases, yes, but KwaZulu-Natal's indeed was outstanding, and especially the last sprint to the finishing line between mid-year to September, when other provinces started resting on their laurels, saying, we have had great increases, we've done our bit, and then KwaZulu-Natal came with an additional jump, and that has been an important part, outmaneuvering, also why we see the kind of conference we now see now. 900 delegates is a large number.
Big. We need to conclude our conversation now. There's a point that you made that I thought was interesting. You were talking about T-shirts. What T-shirts have you observed at this conference? Have they been prominent? What T-shirts have you seen?
Yes, there's the cultures and the factions. Zumas are absolutely proud in their Zuma T-shirts. If this person Zuma, there's a Zuma face on it. However, the other side is much more subdued. You do not see Motlanthe T-shirt. You did not. Neither Sekwale, neither any other candidate on the Forces for Change side. They were more subdued in the Oliver Tambo shirts, occasionally neutral.
Did you see Motlanthe T-shirt?
No, he unequivocally said he didn't want that.
Yeah.
And
no Tokyo Sekwale T-shirt?
No, neither. In fact, for the Forces of Change, I didn't say anything. But there was one that I found extremely interesting, is the one that said, let us not divide the party, let us unite it. Unite the party. Okay. It was just no picture, no nothing, in front and at the back. I thought that was a good message.
Okay. But interesting, overwhelmingly, the unity message was the slogan of the Zuma's camp. And unity, it really didn't mean unity. It meant unity of the faction, unity as a slogan to win the conference.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. Okay, so here on Morning Live tomorrow, the 6 newly elected top officials of the ANC: President Zuma, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, Secretary General Gwede Mantashe, the Chairperson Baleka Mbete, Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte, and Zweli Mkhize, who's the Treasurer General. It's a long broadcast. Starts at 7 o'clock, continues until 10. We invite you to join us for that particular broadcast tomorrow. So as we conclude, I'm going to walk away, go to SAFM now, but I'll show you the shoes that have become a prominent feature of this particular election. From us, we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Ison, shap shap. Mintero ya bulabu, laita bla bla mzu.
I think Vuyo is so obsessed with those shoes. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes and buys himself a pair. He'll bring them back into studio. Now that remains to be seen, I suppose. Now, on other issues, 2012 has been a safer year in terms of fatalities resulting from aircraft accidents in the civil aviation space. This is according to the latest statistics from the South African Civil Aviation Authority. 2011 recorded 36 fatalities, with fewer people reported in 2012 at 29. Here to tell us more about the report is the Head of Communications at SACA, Pindiwe Gwebu, and we welcome her to Morning Live. Good to have you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Welcome to Morning Live. Now, let's just talk about the role of the Civil Aviation Authority. What is it?
The mandate of the South African Civil Aviation Authority is to ensure and regulate safety and security within the civil aviation space within South Africa. Further to that, we also have the responsibility to ensure that the industry develops generally, and we also need to make sure that the functioning of the industry is basically based on best world practices. And to that effect, we are affiliated to the International Civil Aviation Organization that sets out recommended standards and practices that we're supposed to follow, together with all the other civil aviation organizations in the world. We regulate generally all of the airports where aircraft fly from. We license aircraft that we fly in. We also regulate and license our pilots, our cabin crew, our flight engineers. So basically, all that we are responsible for as the South African Civil Aviation Authority is to make sure that all of these aviation personnel adhere to the highest safety and security standards, and as well as the infrastructure from where we operate. We also adhere to the best compared to the world.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I know that one of your objectives as well is to halve aviation accidents by 2014 in
Yes.
here in South Africa.
In South Africa, yes.
All right. How's this? How is this going? You think it's achievable?
It's achievable, provided that we get the cooperation that we require from our industry. In the press statement we released this week, we were actually trying to caution our flying community, because this is a festive season, which is generally a period where a lot of flying is happening. Most of the student pilots, PPL holders and so on are busy trying to accumulate their hours. But there's also a lot of leisure flying that's taking place during this time of the year.
Yeah.
And we just cautioning the industry out there that, look, in terms of the statistics, we've actually, from January to November, are now sitting at about 112 accidents in total. However, out of that number, only 19 were fatal. But the number has grown, surprisingly so, in terms of the people that died as a result of those accidents. And that's a reason for concern as the CAA, because, look, if we are to achieve our target of halving the accidents by 2014, we need to do some things differently.
Yeah.
And we are just trying to caution both the flying community and say that, you know, go back to the basics. Do your pre-flight checks before you take off. Make sure that your aircraft is not overloaded in terms of the weight. Also, you know, check the weather bureau services to check in the route that I'm going to fly. You know, is it safe for me to do so or not? Because these are some of the reasons that come up from the accidents that have been completed, where we find that, you know, it is due to human error that we tend to see most of these accidents occurring.
Yeah.
But also, we would like to caution even the passengers that participate in these flights to say that, look, you have a responsibility to your safety as well. And as a result, check the pilot. Is his papers are current in terms of, is he qualified to fly the aircraft that he's going to be ferrying you in? Also, check the papers of the aircraft. Is it airworthy? Because in terms of our regulations, those papers are supposed to be within the aircraft, and the pilot is supposed to be able to show his or passengers that I am qualified to undertake this flight.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we're saying. We appeal to our industry to be extra cautious this year. Also, in terms of history, we've realized that, you know, from November to December, the accidents tend to spike.
Yeah,
but like I said before, it's because people are busy. People are actually participating in those leisure flights, which is not normally happening during the year. So yeah, we just want to caution that.
Yeah, people must be cautious over this time. Let's just get back to the figures again. With this latest information, which we read out, saying that 2011, 36 fatalities, and in 2012, 29 fatalities. Yes. These are just the fatalities, though, because it's not really a true reflection of the actual aeroplane or the accidents that have happened. What are the figures we're looking at there?
In terms of the actual accidents from January to November now, we're sitting at about 112 accidents that have happened.
And in the previous year?
In the previous year, we were a lot better, actually, because we were at 103 around the same period. Yeah. So there is a rise there.
There is a rise.
The fact that not many people died is not a consolation for us as the CAA, because anything can happen. Yeah. So we would like to see the number of...
One looks at that. When we compare ourselves to the rest of the world, how are we performing?
Well, Leanne, we're actually doing quite well as South Africa, but obviously there's no consolation, because if we lose lives, I mean, there's really no consolation to that. But in terms of the world standards, we're actually one of the best countries in terms of safety. most of these accidents, in fact, all of the 112 accidents that have taken place this year have taken place in the general aviation sector, which is your smaller aircraft that flies about 8 to 12 people maximum. But we haven't had any accident that we have experienced within our scheduled airlines business. And that's something that we're really, really proud of as South Africa, because in that regard, we're beating countries like the United States, like Europe and so on, because we haven't had a scheduled airline or commercial airline accident happening on South African soil, I think as far back as 1952. So that's a commendable record for us as South Africa. However, you know, as the CAA, we have a mandate that we have to fulfill. And because we look after general aviation as well, we will continue to harp on this message that we would like our industry to practice safe flying because we want to see a reduction in those accidents in that sector as well.
Now, in August, the Civil Aviation Act, number 13 of 2009, came into effect. How does this impact the industry?
If you remember, I think I have been in the program when we were busy going through an International Civil Aviation Organization audit together with an FAA audit that took place in 2007. Some of the findings that came out of there were that we have to consolidate some of our acts because we're operating based on 3 acts, and we wanted to consolidate those, and that gave rise to the Civil Aviation Act number 13 of 2009. And what we were doing now since 2010 was to consolidate the new act with our regulations, meaning that we're trying to make sure that our regulations are now in line with the new act. So what we've been doing this year is going around the country, engaging our industry in terms of them understanding what the interpretation of that legislation is and how it translates to the regulations, which is what they are supposed to be adhering and adhering to as an industry. So we've been going through this. We're hoping that, you know, this is going to do wonders in terms of really rising our status globally as one of the best civil aviation authorities around.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for talking to us this morning and just shedding some light on the aviation industry. And I was chatting to Pindiwe Gwebu, who is the head of communications for SACA. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, that basically brings us to the end of the broadcast from here in the Johannesburg studio. Let's just again inform you what's happening tomorrow. We are going on until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and the reason being, we have the top 6 live on SABC2. You can tune in to the breakfast and we'll introduce you to the top 6, also chat to each one of them, and the president, of course, being there as well, part of this business briefing that we're going to be bringing you live tomorrow morning. And I think it kicks off at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning until 10, but morning live as usual on your screens from 6 o'clock. So we look forward to being with you. Thank you very much to everybody who's participated in the conversations, whether it be about Mangaung, whether it be about Miss South Africa, who made it to the top 10 of Miss Universe. Unfortunately, not going further than that, but congrats to her and lots of well wishes. And also, we have to, which I haven't mentioned, is give a huge congratulations to Mikasa, who've been asked to perform at President Barack Obama's inauguration as well next year. So that makes it Lira, that makes it Mikasa, and someone told me, Onatu actually said that Brahim Masekela as well. So South African music industry being amazing. Thanks again, everybody. See you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day and God bless you. Shop, shop from us.
Received 991 votes. Jacob Zuma received 2,983 votes.
Somlandela, somlandela uthuli, somlandela yonke indawo, somlandela, somlandela uthuli, lapho iyakhona somlandela, somlandela, somlandela. Somlandela, somlandela, uthuli lapho iyakhona, somlandela, 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 yonke indawo somlandela ulthuli lapho eyakhona somlandela 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 oh eyakhona somlandela 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 yonke indawo somlandela umthuli lapho eyakhona somlandela 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 yonke indawo somlandela umthuli lapho eyakhona somlandela somlandela yonke indawo somlandela ulthuli